everybody. Welcome to Chinese painting class. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We are going to have a lot of fun tonight with color. We've been doing a lot of black ink and a little bit of color, but now we're going to be playing with a lot of color tonight, which will be fun. So if you do not have these particular watercolors, if you have watercolor paint, you can try to match up the colors we're going to use tonight, all right? But lots of colors. So we are going to be using, if you have this 25 or like lemon yellow or bright yellow, we're going to be using like a light brown, like a burnt sienna. I would think if you have watercolors, that's probably what it's going to be called. These number these Chinese watercolors. So, hello, Laurie. All right, and then let's see what else. We got 55. It doesn't look like that on here. It looks almost like a light turquoise, but it's a bright green, like a Vivian green, like a blue green. So if you have other watercolors, or if you just have a sap green, that's fine. It doesn't have to match up. This is the greenest I have in the set, so that's what I'm using. And let's see, we've got 55, we got 19, which is a red. So just like an apple red. And is that all 25? Got that. I think that's the 4 we're using. Just double, oh, white. We're going to be adding white and 50. And then your black ink, which we're not going to use a ton of, but we are going to use it. All right, so, oh, and 56. See, we got a lot of colors here. This is blue. So this is like a bright blue. So, you know, just like basic colors, like your primary, you got your yellow, red, blue, bright ones. Hi, Christina. And then you have like a burnt sienna and like a bright green and white, and then your ink. So if you have watercolors, or even if you have cheap acrylic paint, maybe you can water them down if you don't have anything, but that's the colors we're going to be aiming for. All right. And then you got your bamboo brushes. And of course, water and like a rag and some palette to put the stuff on. All right, so let's get started. So we are not going to sketch anything out. We're going to do some fruits and vegetables here. And we're just going to paint, which it's really different from like what I usually do with my my Western watercolors. Like I would sketch everything out, but we're just going to not sketch anything out. So all I'm going to do is start, we have bananas we're going to do here. Well, let me show you the picture. We got bananas here, and then grapes, and an onion and carrots. So we're going to start with the bananas because they're light, because we don't want to put the grapes first because the yellow won't be able to cover that up. It would be too light. And we're going to do the grapes around it. So we're going to start with the light here. So, all right, so we're going to, and this is already used, so I'm going to use this side. So we're going to take out our yellow here. And if you have, these are Chinese watercolors, they are a little more watery, so I need a little more. But if you have like traditional watercolors, you might only need a pea size because they're more concentrated and you can get them diluted with water. But this, I find these watercolors, I need just a little more than I normally would with my other ones. Just to let you know if you got these. And I'm going to take the brown here. I'm going to put it over here. I don't want it to run. I have to shake that guy up. And then, let's see. I'm going to grab this green and put it over here. Start with. We're going to be using all of these colors. All right, so I'm going to grab my medium brush, but they're all brushes act the same. It's just how much space you have how much detail, like obviously the smaller brush if you have less space. But I'm going to grab my medium size. And I'm going to wet my brush. And again, I like to make sure it's shaped. I might even add a little water here, just to get it going here. All right, so we're going to, I'm glad I have this so I can kind of explain. We're going to paint the top of these first. That's what we're going for. All right, let's see if I, so the bananas are kind of on this side, and then the carrots and the onions on this side. So I guess the tip of the banana I want sort of near the center. And I'm just going to, again, if you want to know how to hold your brush, your 2 fingers, your thumb, and you can either rest your fingers here or back there, whatever you feel comfortable. But you want, you don't want it tight where you're so like stiff, but you don't want it loose where it's falling out. You want it like fluid, okay, when you hold your brush. And you can hold your hand here so the paper doesn't move. I don't have it taped. And we're just going to start at the tip. And as we go down, I'm going to like push down more to make it wide. And as I go up, I'm going to lift up so it goes to like a point for the stem. All right. And then the second one was like right here. And they're going to be on the same stem, so I'm going to kind of connect them. You can see that. All right. And at first when we start painting these fruits and vegetables, they're not going to look too much till we come back and add some detail. Again, if you have any questions, just throw them in the comments. I'm kind of peeking at you here and there. So now I'm going to grab some yellow here and just like a tad of brown, just to get like a yellow brown, because this will be more of the shadow on the bottom here. I might want to add water because sometimes it dries out a little bit. And I'm just going to follow almost the same thing I did, but just underneath. But I might not need so much. See, I might add a little brown. And if you find like the colors aren't contrasting enough, just add a little more color. You can always add color. Okay, just 4 simple strokes. I'm always rinsing out my brush between so I don't have my colors run. And I think I'm going to grab, again, another yellow here. If you hear music in the background, someone's playing a movie, so I'm sorry. But I do like music. I'm going to just grab just ever so I took a tip of it and I'm kind of brushing out because I don't want it too green. Maybe I can rinse it out. I just want a very yellow green here. You can add a little more yellow. Like that. Make sure your brush is in the tip. I'm just going to add hints of green. You know how when your bananas ripen, you might have like a little green spots. I might add like a little up here. If it blends a little, that's fine. It might need to dry a little bit. Okay, just like hints of green. I don't know if you can see that. See if I can. Okay. Now we're going to let this dry before we add more detail because I don't want it to blend. And we're going to start with the grapes around it. So what we need for the grapes is your red and your blue. So I'm going to Actually, I don't want to smear this. I'm going to move this so I can show you what I'm doing on my palette here. So I'm going to add some red. And get in there. And the blue, the bright blue. We're going to make purple, or like a red purple here. Actually, the blue is pretty overpowering. You probably don't need too much blue. Now I'm going to pull some of this over here. I always like to pull out and mix so I can keep adding rather than just oh, I put too much and then I have to squeeze more paint out. That's pretty nice. Just a tad of blue. Okay. Alright, come back here. Now this won't look much at first, but when we add the shadows for the grapes and everything else, it does come together. It's going to look a little funny at first, but all we're going to do is to take our brush and we're going to add little circles. And if you leave a little space, that's actually fine because we're going to, and if you want to even here, they covered a little bit over the banana, and that's fine. That blended a little bit, but we'll deal with that. That's fine. If sometimes things blend when they're still wet. But it's going to look weird. They're just like dots all the way around. It's not going to look much right now. But you take the tip and you kind of just go in a swirly motion. And you can make them bigger globes, smaller globes. But the stem of the grape's going to be up here, and this is where the leaves are. So I'm going to have it come together up here. And of course, I want some right at the edge here. And they're not all going to be perfectly shaped. Grapes aren't perfect all the time anyway. So.
Very much.
So it's just laying on a pile of grapes.
Oh, please.
Okay. Just circles, circles. Very simple. I'm going to have the branch come up there. And this will all be filled in with a shadow. It just looks like a bunch of blobs, and it's fine. Okay. Kind of looks funny, huh? Now, before it dries, this is actually, I don't want completely dry like the bananas. I'm going to take my white, just put a dot on here. And I'm going to give them little highlights on the grapes, on the tops. I put a lot of white there. Oh well. Guess I'll have to use it. I might grab my smaller brush for this and just shape it. Now I have two waters here. I have one for my color paint and one for my black ink. It's not a big deal as much as the other stuff we did because the black's going to be at the end. But the black ink, man, when you put it in the water, it makes water completely jet black, and it just meddles with everything if you keep using the water. So that's why I have two here. Just going to just take a little white and on the top of each, not each one, but I'm going to just start highlighting the tops, like in this circular motion. Maybe I can even draw them a little more circular. It'll give a little more contrast than just the red or the purple here. Hey, Cindy. So these are just simple strokes, and I wanted to do something that looks impressive at the end, but when you do them in steps, it's just simple. And keep dipping in the white and just highlighting them. Because when you add the shadows in, you'll have almost like 3 different colors and contrast in here, which is what you want. I'm just doing impressions. Like I might not like that shape, so I might just add more of a circle to it. So this is where you can correct some of the strokes that you don't like. And just go around. And you don't have to do every one of them either, so. Some of these aren't circular as I like, so I'm going to just change them up a little bit. And it's still going to look like a mess. And that's kind of what's going to look like until the end. It'll just come together near the end. Now we're going to have to let this dry for a bit and keep moving on. So it's going to look like a bunch of red splotches with pink on top, or purple splotches with kind of like pink on top. Doesn't look pretty nice now, but trust me, these steps will make it complete at the end. Okay, so we're going to leave this go for now because it needs to dry. And I'm just going to grab that brown we had with the same small brush. Oh, let's make, there it is, that little brown. I'm just going to add like a quick little branch up there. It's not going to look like much. And then I'm going to take the green here. I might add a little white. That's kind of a bright green, or you can add a little yellow if you want a more of a yellow. It's whatever. Just make the green you really like. This is going to be a leaf. It's kind of too. I'm going to add a little more yellow. There we go. Whatever you like. You might not even have the same color green I got. It's fine. Now I'm going to put some leaves here, and when you look at grape leaves, at least I noticed they're almost like heart-shaped. Not quite, but they're not exactly like the leaves you see like on, I don't know, like a birch tree or, well, maple kind of round. But when I look at trees like on a vine or like for grapes, I notice they're very almost like a heart. So I want to cover this up here because it's going to come out here. So I'm going to almost make like a heart shape. Just fill it in. And we're going to shadow this. So you just want to get maybe one's hiding in the back here. Or we put that. Whatever you want. Oh, let's do something a little fun. Because I have the branch here, or the stem or whatever. Let's see if I can get the point. You want to make it point? I want to make like, I like to make the squiggly vines. I don't know. That's what I like about grapes, the squigglies. That's fun to do if you want. Alright, so we're going to let this dry before we add more detail because it'll just blend everywhere. I'm going to move over to our vegetables. So we're going to add an onion here, and then we're going to have some carrots here. So the onion is the same brown, the base, and then that green we use for the leaves. Okay, and we're doing the one obviously before we got the skins off and like you pulled out of the garden. So you might have to, I don't know if, I like this color brown, I'm going to probably go with it. But if you have a darker brown, and you might want to add white or something. All right, so it's going to be about here. So you're almost going to make like a backwards S. See how it goes, like almost like a backwards S in one swoop. And I'm pushing, using a lot of I'm putting pressure on my brush to get more paint out of it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It's almost like a genie glass bottle. And I'm going to stick a guy here and just... Sometimes you might want to leave some white. You don't have to leave white show through, but if you want. I'm taking the same green. And I'm just going to make like the grass we've been making, so. And I'll add a little more water there. And some I only go a little bit, and maybe the shoots of the onion. So we're going to let that dry before we add detail. Okay, and this is my favorite one, is the carrots. I don't know, these are just super fun for me to paint. So this is orange. So we're going to take our red we already have. I'm going to pull it out. Actually, it's probably too much red. I'm going to take out, because red's very overpowering. I'm going to add a little yellow to this and see how that's overpowering. Eventually you'll get an orange. Wow, that went all on my brush, didn't it? Well, I'll just use the yellow here. You can always squeeze yellow out. Alright. So we're going to be using, this is called, let's see if I can. When you take the brush on the side and you go down like this, it's called a side brush stroke. That's pretty much what we're doing here. So I am trying to decide where the top of my carrot would be, and I want to fill this space here. So I'm going to take the side of my brush, and this will be the thickest part, and I'm just going to do like a circular motion. Leave a little space in between if you want. And that's all it is to it. And sometimes, you know, like things like that happen, makes the painting a little interesting. They're just really fun to paint. I might even want to add another one. I love carrots. I have enough. Yeah, I do. Might as well use the orange. Maybe I'll stick a baby one in here. And again, I'm just using the same green, but if you want to mix different greens and make it interesting, let's do that. See if I can get this a little later. And we're just going to do some strokes here. And then at the top, you're just gonna dab it. Like it's got leaves on it. I went off the page a little bit, but that's all right. See if you can see that. You can even go back with a darker green and just add a little more contrast. That's fine. All right. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Now we're going to add the detail and bring this all together. We're going to add the color detail and then add the shadows and stuff with the ink the last. So this should be pretty much dry. So I'm going to grab some brown, I think. I didn't dilute it really. I mean, I didn't mix anything with it. And I might want to add like a line here. This got a little red, so maybe I'll add a little up here. Take my brush off. Maybe like little spots. Maybe whatever you want. See if I could. What I'm probably going to do, since I ran, I'll probably add the shadow. It's still wet. So if that happens and something runs down, just take a paper towel. Don't scrub. Just put it down. It's just not drying. And then fold it in a different spot. That just ran. And I'm gonna make that in the shadow. So if something like that happens, like, don't panic. I think I'm gonna add that. Okay. And then I'm going to add some lines on these leaves. I'm still using brown. Again, these are, make sure it's dry. I'll hold my brush straight. There we go. Just simple lines. Okay. I'm gonna go to the onion here. Taking the brown. I don't know if this is gonna show much because I didn't like do a light brown, but if you want to add like some lines, yeah, it did work. Just to give some look. We're gonna go back with a shadow and do this with the ink. Okay, we can see if I missed anything. All right, so now we're going to take this black ink and add the rest of the details here. So I use a different palette because this is very runny and it just runs into everything. Even if you have regular watercolor or Chinese, if you let this dry, the cool thing about watercolors, you don't even have to cover up. If you dry, if you have water, you can reuse them. So don't throw your black ink in and have it run everywhere because you won't be able to use them, but you can reuse these if you let them dry right here. That's why I use separate palettes because it runs everywhere. And make sure you shake it. Alright, so I'm just putting a pile of black ink there. And I don't want it that dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other water that doesn't have the color I washed my colors in. And I'm going to actually make a puddle of water. And then I'm going to just take just dip my brush and just add it to the puddle of water. That should make it a little lighter. You don't want this, it will just saturate everything. Maybe even add a little more water. It looks dark, but trust me, it's a lot lighter than the ink you got there. All right. Okay. So I'm grabbing the light color here. Let's start with the carrots. All I'm going to do is just paint like a little shadow underneath here. And see how it's not so black, and it will dry later. And if you feel that's too dark, then just add more water. You can even go space that you left if you want. Add a little more water in this one. I mean, this black is really potent, so yeah, it's a little better. And then underneath the stems, you don't want to put it right underneath. You notice here, you gotta imagine where would the shadow cast. So it's not gonna be like right underneath because they're kind of sticking up. And so maybe just like it's right there. You don't have, just some kind of suggestion would be fine. You can even go behind there, just to give some kind of shadow here. I don't want to go over the green there. Okay? Okay, and here, I'm going to take the same shadow ink and just add a little more detail here. I might just want a shadow on the side. Now, this has to be dry or this will mix in everything. Maybe take a little more, and then, you know how like they have like the squigglies at the end? Let's see if I can. It's dark, but you find out that all artists make mistakes, and when you do things live, you get to see everything. And this is how you fix them. I think I'm going to actually grab, I want to put a little root here. It's like a squiggly. It's not behaving tonight, is it? Behave when I did it offline. But that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the shadowing. So, I mean, you can draw like lines. You can add a shadow on your leaf. It just makes it pop. And of course, this is going to have a regular shadow underneath. Just a little hint of a shadow. Okay. Now, this is pretty much dry, and that's what we want. So you see all this space of brightness. We're going to cover that up. And if this is dry, this should not blend. That's why I wanted to put the highlights and everything in first. I'm just making sure this isn't really black. I'm actually just going to paint inside here. If it goes over, it's fine. A little bit. And if it looks, you can even come back and add a little white if you can't see the grapes very well. That was... maybe... back and forth here. I'm kind of dabbing, honestly. I don't want to blend too much. Some of this isn't actually dry, I'm finding out. Right there. So I'm just gonna dab. And then we're gonna add a little shadow underneath the bananas. Even go a little farther from the grapes. See, it's not dry. I wish I could speed dry this during class, because normally I will wait longer, and that's my issue. So if it's wet at all, you should be waiting between these. All right. All right. So here, like, when this is dry, but I'm going to try to do it now, you can be like, I want a little more highlights. You can come back with your white if you like. But this is so wet, I don't know how this is going to, that's not a, but you can come back and add highlights. It's really up to you. I mean, going back and forth to get it the way you want it to look. Holding the brush. Yeah. I have a habit of holding it the regular, not the Chinese way, because I paint all the time and I gotta keep correcting myself. I'm like, ah. But when you practice a lot, you'll get used to it. I paint every day, so I have to go back and forth. But you can add some highlights. Oh, let's do a shadow here real quick before we go. Let's see. Doesn't matter, I guess. You just want to add a little dark color. See, it's not completely dry. If it's dry, this is what you'll end up with. But since this isn't dry completely, but if you put a little wash, very light wash of the ink, like almost water, but just tint of ink, and this is, the lines are completely dry, it will actually just act like a shadow. And you notice I even add a little white highlights here, which you can also do. Yeah, this is so wet. Let's see how wet that is. All right. So you should have something like this. Hopefully you let it dry a little longer than I did. And if you did, it will end up more like this. I'll show you the difference between wet and dry. This is probably a good example. So this is what happens when I didn't wait all the way. I mean, it did do its job, but you see how it ran here? And here I waited longer because I wasn't live. And this is what it will look like. You see the shadows didn't mix in too much. Even this one. See how the shadows are nicer. But all right, so give it a go. This is fun when you start introducing color, and then you're still using your ink here. And remember, this one's the side brush, and this one is the C, where you start small and then you put pressure and start small. Almost the same thing, but the C is this way. So simple strokes combined together can make something that looks like that you really spend time on. So it doesn't have to be very, very difficult or very complicated. All right, so try out and let me know what you think. Even if you have regular watercolors at home, you can certainly do this. Even if you don't have bamboo brushes, if you get a round brush, which, do I have one? No, I put my stuff away. But a flat brush obviously it would look like that. And a round brush actually looks like a bamboo brush. So you can try it with a round brush. I have done it, but you won't be able to shape it, but you can at least get an idea and paint something. All right, so I will see you guys next week. I think we're doing fish and water next week, like a koi, so that would be fun. And I hope you have a wonderful week and do something creative, whatever it is, and spend time for yourself, make time for yourself. All right, so have a great week. I'll see you next week.